Hey, I'm Olivia,
And hey, I'm Dad.
and you're listening to Soarin' Around WDW. Welcome back, Flight Crew, and happy Wednesday. Tonight we are talking about Freaky Friday and its recently released sequel, Freakier Friday, both starring Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis. Today I have with me a very special guest, Stephen from the Idiot's Guide to Imagineering podcast. Welcome, Stephen.
Hello. Excited to be here.
Yes, thanks so much for coming to chat. So, before we get into today's movies, I want to take a minute and promote Steven's show because it truly is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to every week. Stephen, Katie, and Marissa are awesome, and I love their concept. Their entire show, Idiot's Guide to Imagineering, is just so fun. So, Stephen, tell us a little bit about your podcast.
It's so nice to hear that. We're kind of a little bit of a different Disney podcast style. We're a group of former cast members, and we all have all these ideas that are just flowing all the time of like what we want to see that could come to the park. So one day we just said, why don't we just create these ideas and kind of flesh them out in like a hour-long format, and we've created a show around that. So every episode is just kind of a new idea that we've come up with that we feel like could fit into the park somehow. We try to be really realistic about it, despite our name, the Idiots, but
Yeah.
but we do have a lot of fun on there. And we just wrapped our third season, which is crazy, but that means that there are now, I think, 72 episodes of
Wow.
original projects that we've created for people to go back and listen to while we're kind of in our off season. And we're still releasing stuff every week, but our full seasons, our next one, we don't know when it's going to start yet, but it'll probably be either later this year or early next year. So we've had Olivia on it before. She was
Yes.
on an episode on season 3. I want to say it was like episode 10 or 11 maybe, where we went to Epcot, and Katie had this idea to revamp Seas with Nemo as National Geographic, and Olivia had so many wonderful thoughts and
It was so
comments about
fun.
it. It was really fun to have you on there. So if I can plug one episode, it's that one. Go back and check it out.
Oh, well, thanks for plugging my episode. That is so fun. But yeah, definitely love the show. It's so unique. And like you said, a different concept, which is really cool. And the season finale that y'all just did was so fun. They got to pitch, unique ideas in a time frame. They spun a wheel. It was all kind of, within the show and getting to come up with these unique projects. Both Steven and Marissa went against each other. And it's just a fun little competition thing too to round out the end of the year. But yeah, so definitely check them out and get ready for season 4. It'll be a good time. I'm looking forward to it already.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So I asked Steven to be on today's episode because I know he appreciates nostalgic Disney movies of the late 90s and early 2000s just as much as I do. So, Steven, when this movie came out in 2003, the original, well, not the original, but the original that we're talking about, Freaky Friday, do you remember seeing it? Did you see it in the theaters? Was it a favorite of yours? Like, what do you remember about the 2003 version of this film?
I have always been a theater goer, and I definitely know that I saw this in theaters. I don't remember like specifically, but I know that I would have seen it in theaters, and it's always been one of those movies that like I've always loved, and so I was
Yeah.
really excited to hear that there was going to be a sequel, but also a little hesitant of you never know what it's going to be like when they try
Yeah.
to do something, especially so far off. But I do always remember loving this movie.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely how I feel. I vividly remember seeing this movie in the theaters for
Oh yeah.
whatever reason. I was already obsessed with Lindsay Lohan from The Parent Trap. Like that was definitely peak, for me, that
Oh,
time
of
era
course.
of Parent Trap. And then one of my top favorite movies of all time is The Parent Trap. But anything she was in, I had to see after that. So after seeing the movie, I literally begged my dad for a red electric guitar. And in
No way.
2003, for Christmas, he made my dreams come true. So with an amp in tow. So I was literally awful at it,
Wow.
so it did not go far. It was terrible. I only ever like plucked, and it was not inexpensive or not the same as she had in the movie or anything. But I remember getting it specifically because of Freaky Friday, like being obsessed with how she
Wow.
was, yeah, playing guitar,
Well,
which is
you know
so
what?
funny.
I have to say we have this in common. I don't know if it was because of Freaky Friday, but I did get a guitar when I was younger. I
Oh,
took
that's
maybe
so
three
funny.
lessons. I can still remember how to play chords, but that's about it. I was no good at it, and I dropped it immediately. But
Yeah, I am not musically
Mhm.
talented. Regan is very musically talented and can literally
Oh,
play almost any instrument he picks up, guitar, drums, bass, keyboard. Like he's just very good at instruments, and I am not. So I think he ended up like playing around with it for a little bit, but yeah, ultimately did not become Lindsay Lohan's prodigy at all. And
not
I
yet.
also remember, yeah, not yet. Dreams still can come true, right?
Mhm.
I also really remember being obsessed with the soundtrack of this movie, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. But what do you remember most about Lindsay Lohan during this era? Were you a fan from The Parent Trap, or did Freaky Friday really make you start to notice her? Like, when did you start to really notice Lindsay Lohan, or would you call yourself a fan?
Definitely from Parent Trap. I mean, that was
Okay, yeah.
like formative years of my life. Like that is,
Yes.
core growing up movie for me. I think I've always been a Lindsay Lohan fan, and I've been rooting for her so hard for this I don't want
Yes.
to say comeback, but for her re-entry into film and everything. And I mean, like, I was also a very big Britney Spears fan, so the two of them were kind of palling around all the time, and like
Yeah.
it was an interesting time for them. But I've
Yeah.
always been like locked into what Lindsay Lohan's doing. Like her song "Rumors," huge fan
Oh,
of that.
yes.
I
Oh my gosh,
can't
so
forget that.
good.
Long before Freaky Friday, I've been a Lindsay Lohan fan. I think she did that Herbie movie,
Yeah.
the Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, uh, Mean Girls,
Yeah.
anything she's done, I've been on it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And I kind of figured that because actually one of the first episodes of Idiot's Guide that I listened to was the Parent Trap Hotel
Oh
redo
yeah,
that
yeah,
y'all
yeah.
did. That's like one of my favorites. Was
Uh
that
huh.
season one,
That
maybe? Or
was
was it
season
two?
two. It was probably
Okay,
around the
like
time
early.
your podcast started. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so about a year ago. Yeah, that one was really fun. So that's, listeners, if you haven't already heard that one, go back and listen to the Idiot's Guide Parent Trap episode. It's really
That
fun.
was a really fun one.
Yeah, I liked that.
Hmm.
So now before we get freaky and then freakier yet, I don't know, that sounds a little weird, but let's go back to the beginning when the original concept for Freaky Friday first came out as a book in 1972. So
A
this was
book?
something I don't think I realized. I did
I
not
had
know that
no
it was a
idea.
book first. Yeah, I knew there were other versions of Freaky Friday movies, but I did not realize it was a book. But it is a comedic children's novel by Mary Rogers, originally published in 1972 by Harper and Row. And the story follows 13-year-old Annabelle Andrews and her mother, who unexpectedly switch bodies for one day, experiencing life from each other's perspective. The book is actually only 142 pages long, and the plot of the book reads Annabelle Andrews is tired of her mother telling her what to do. She's tired of being told to do her homework, clean up her room, and be nice to her little brother, Ape Face, which I thought was,
What?
yeah, they call her brother
That's
Ape Face. I
wow.
was like, okay.
Okay.
If she were an adult, she could do anything she wanted, like watch TV all day and eat marshmallows for breakfast. One Friday morning, Annabelle's wish comes true when she wakes up and realizes she's turned into her mother. But after a major washing machine mishap, losing Ape Face, and a terrible teacher conference, Annabelle
Oh
starts to
no.
suspect that being an adult is not as much fun as it seems. One thing's for certain, this one Freaky Friday she'll never forget. And as the day unfolds, she kind of gains this new appreciation, obviously, for her mother's daily challenges and learns the surprising truths like her brother's admiration for her, and Boris's real name is Morris. The mystery peaks when Ben disappears with a beautiful stranger, later revealed to be Mrs. Andrews in Annabelle's body. And the switch was caused by her mother through unknown means, and ending with both returning to their bodies. So Annabelle is newly humbled and brace free. So it's that's a lot. There's a
I,
lot to unpack
I've
here. I'm
gotta
like,
say the freakiest part of that is Ape Face.
Ape
So,
face. Yeah. I'm like, I'm glad they didn't keep that in at least that
right?
this version of the movie.
Yeah.
That's like a little bizarre. But yeah, so Mary Rogers actually wrote two sequels featuring the Andrews family. One is called A Billion for Boris in 1974. And then Annabelle and her friend Boris discover this TV that shows future broadcasts and use it to place bets. I was like, ooh.
Oh.
And then summer switch in 1982, where Annabelle's younger brother, Ape-faced, I guess, also known as Ben, and their father accidentally swapped bodies, leading to Dad at summer camp and Ben navigating Hollywood. So all three books were later released in paperback by Harper Trophy, and A Billion for Boris was also reissued under the title ESP in later editions. I'm like, okay, there's a lot with the book that I had no idea. There was a thematic follow-up, Freaky Monday, in 2009, co-written by Rogers and Heather Hatch, and follows a 13-year-old student and her laid-back teacher who unexpectedly switch bodies. So this author is obviously very big into the body swap.
She's obsessed with that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay, first of all, I didn't know there was a book. Second of all, I didn't know there was any record of some type of sequel for this movie. So now
Yeah.
so there's a sequel book and a third. So there's a trilogy of
Yes.
freaky or freakiest Fridays here.
Oh, sorry. Nike just totally sat on the computer. My dog. Anyways, yeah, a trilogy that I had no idea existed either. And obviously, as we'll talk about, this sequel of the movie doesn't seem to follow any of these books. Like, and the 2003 version of this movie also loosely follows it, and there's some little nods that they kind of put in there, but for the most part, the plot is really just like the mom and daughter fighting and switching bodies, and everything else is like doesn't sound like it's very similar to the book. But so you did not obviously know this was a book first, but I'm a huge reader. I always have been, and I literally have never heard anything about this book. So it doesn't surprise me that it was a book first, because I feel like that's how a lot of these movies start, but it was interesting just to kind of hear more about it. But it does have
Yeah.
multiple film adaptations that were all produced by the Walt Disney Company and sharing the original title, including versions released in 1976, 1995, 2003, and 2018. In the 2025, or in 2025, the novel was actually reissued to coincide with the release of Freakier Friday. And this is obviously the upcoming or the sequel that is now out to the 2003 film adaptation. But the first film adaptation was actually released theatrically in 1976 and starred Barbara Harris and Jodie Foster as
Jodie
Ellen and
Foster?
Annabelle Andrews. Yes, have you seen this version of the
I
film?
have not seen this version, but you know what? I think it's on Disney Plus
It
because I
is.
was I was searching Freaky Friday the other day to watch it before I saw the sequel, and this came up.
Yes, I've also never seen it, but others, when I put up the poll on Instagram right before I went and saw the movie, they were like, oh, yeah, I've seen them all. And I was like, okay, so tell me which one's the best. And everybody who's seen them all claims that this one with Jodie Foster is the best.
No
So
way.
I know, I'm like, I gotta watch it now. I need to
Okay.
take the time on Disney Plus, because I had no idea. But this was a screenplay actually by the author Mary Rogers. She wrote the screenplay for the movie. A 1995 made-for-TV version followed, airing on ABC's Wonderful World of Disney. And this version starred Shelley Long and Gabby Hoffman. And in this version, the body swap is triggered by magical amulets after the mother and daughter express envy for each other's lives. The most well-known adaptation came obviously in 2003, starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan as Tess and Anna Coleman, and their switch is caused by the enchanted fortune cookies given by a mysterious woman at a Chinese restaurant. There is a nod to the sequel of the book called A Billion for Boris, that sequel that appears at the end where Grandpa and Harry
Oh
takes the fortune
yeah.
cookie and like
Okay,
teases
okay.
another swap. So that's supposed to
hmm
be a nod to that, I guess. In 2018, Disney Channel adapted the Freaky Friday stage musical into a TV movie featuring Heidi Blickenstaff and Cozy Zulsdorf as Catherine and Ellie Blake. So this was based off of a stage adaptation actually created by Disney, with the music written by Tom Kitt and the lyrics written by Brian Yorkie, with an accompanying book and stage play script by Bridget Carpenter. The musical was actually developed by Disney Theatrical. It premiered at the Signature Theater in Virginia in 2016, followed by runs at the La Jolla Playhouse, Cleveland Playhouse, and Alley Theater. It was set in modern-day Chicago, and the musical draws from both Mary Rogers' original novel and the film adaptation. So this version is also on Disney Plus, but I have also not seen this version. Have you?
No. Okay, this shows how disconnected I am with the Disney Channel of today. I
Yeah.
just I totally missed this. I just found out there were four of these zombie movies. I don't know how
Yeah,
we
yeah.
went from one to four, but I had no idea this existed. It's a musical?
It's a
Like
musical, apparently. I've again not
okay.
seen it, but yeah, a musical
I mean,
version
I
of
would
Freaky
watch it.
Friday.
Now,
Yeah.
Now, I will say I remember the 1995 version very clearly, and like when I think of Shelley Long, I think of that movie. I just have very very vivid memories of her acting like a child in that movie,
Okay,
and
that's
so
funny.
I tried to see if that was somewhere to watch, but it's not on Disney Plus, so I've got to find it somewhere.
Yeah, I similarly looked for that one because somebody else said that was somebody
Mhm.
said they were all worth watching and I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm going to add them to my watch list to watch." But that one seems to be kind of like the My Date with the President's Daughter, like maybe it was like an
Yes,
ABC.
it was.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So yeah, hard to find. I don't know if YouTube
hmm
has like sometimes it has some like not
I'm
legal
sure we
versions
can
to
find
watch.
some
Some
black market version, some
yeah,
bootleg
grainy. Yeah.
copy. Yeah.
So the 2003 film adaptation, the casting, so Jodie Foster was actually considered for the mother role in this
Hmm.
2003 film adaptation along with Madonna, but
No
both
way.
declined. Yeah, I'm like, can you imagine Madonna playing the
That would have
mom
been
in
a
this film?
different movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And as we said earlier, Annette Bening and Michelle Trachtenberg were initially cast. Oh, okay. So I like had this backwards. They were cast in the 2003 film. So,
Okay, okay.
okay, that makes more
That
sense.
makes
Like
yeah. So now
more
she would have been kind of older.
older,
Okay,
like the
yeah.
Ice Princess era of
Got
Michelle
it.
Trachtenberg, I guess.
Okay.
But they exited due to scheduling. So Jamie Lee Curtis joined just 4 days before filming.
No
And
way.
yeah, she was recommended for her True Lies role. And people saw her in that and said, I think she'd be great for this mom. And she joined, yeah, literally right before they started filming, which is crazy.
True Lies is such a good movie, and that is like the epitome of Jamie Lee Curtis. So if you haven't seen
Yes.
that, I would say that's like that. Go watch that.
Yes, there are some great early, like early days Jamie Lee Curtis
hmm
movies, but yeah, True Lies was a great one. And then Lindsay Lohan was actually not impressive in her audition, but she ended up landing the part due to her Parent Trap success and chemistry with Curtis. But somewhere I read that it was like one of the worst auditions they had ever seen. And I was like, whoa, get out of town.
No
That's so
way.
crazy.
So they
Yeah.
were just completely banking on the Parent Trap
Yep.
like version of her to sell this.
Yeah,
Wow.
which is wild. And we'll
hmm
kind of talk a little bit soon here about what else she had kind of been in between, but not much. So I was very surprised to hear that they kind of went off of
Wow.
her chemistry with Jamie Lee Curtis and just threw her in there. But Chad Michael Murray was cast as Jake. And actually, the person that was considered before him was Jared Padalecki. And he auditioned for the role, which is hilarious to me because this would have been filming not too long after Chad Michael Murray and Jared Padalecki played as competitors for Rory Gilmore's love interest on Gilmore Girls in 2001. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even
Oh.
picture Jared like in that role. And then Rosalind Chow played Pei Pei, basing her accent on her father. Christina Vidal replaced Kelly Osbourne. So she would have been like the lead singer of Pink Slip, Kelly Osbourne. I was like, oh,
Whoa.
interesting.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I can see that too. But
hmm
she left after her mother's cancer diagnosis. She had to step out, and so they replaced her with Christina Vidal. Other notable auditions included Kristen Stewart, Brie Larson, Emmy Rossum, and Raven Simone, which I thought was interesting.
Wow.
So they all auditioned for this film. And then Tom Selleck was actually initially cast as the husband Ryan or the stepdad Ryan, but he dropped out and Mark Harmon replaced him. And Ryan Malgarini won the role of Harry over Spencer Breslin, who was very popular around this time
hmm
with Disney Channel in, what's it called? The Santa Claus and like
Yeah.
I can't remember what the other movie is in that You Wish maybe is one that he was in Disney Channel, but cameos include Mark McClure, who actually was from the 1976 film. He, I guess, is the guy who says like no Boris and is like having her sign the paper, and that was another nod to the sequel of the
Oh.
book, and he was in the original movie.
hmm
Lindsay Lohan's mother, Dina, and the director, Mark Waters, all play little parts in this. So we are now left with this star studded cast. We have Lindsay Lohan in her early aughts prime, Jamie Lee Curtis, Mark Harmon, Harry Gold, Chad Michael Murray, and Stephen Tobolowsky as the top build for this film. So Lindsay Lohan had obviously started out as a Disney star. Her fame began with the iconic role, none other than both Hallie and Annie in The Parent Trap as her film debut, followed up by Life Size with Tyra Banks,
Oh,
one of the
what a
classics.
movie.
It's so
What a
good.
classic is the only word for
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I'll sing
classic.
the whole song for you. Shine
Shine
bright,
bright,
shine
shine
far,
bright. Yeah, it's so
be a
good.
star.
Be a star. And then the decom Get a Clue, which is another favorite of mine. Have you seen that
I
one with,
can't remember this one.
oh, that one's good
I
with
wonder.
the kid from Little Rascals that played Alfalfa was her like love interest before he like is now
Why
no
do I not
longer a
remember
film
this?
star. Oh, that's a good one. Add it to your Disney Plus
Okay,
watch list. She's like a
adding get a
spy
clue.
who lives in New York City.
I'm sure I've seen this. The cover immediately looks familiar.
Yeah, yeah, it's really
Oh,
good.
it is
I mean,
alfalfa.
it's
Okay.
really, it's a
Hmm.
good bad decom, like
Sure.
classic 2000s. And Freaky Friday came out right before Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen and Mean Girls, which both came out in 2004, which I'm like,
Whoa.
what two different roles? Mean Girls
Very,
and
yeah,
Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen.
completely different. Like one feels like an adult movie and one feels like a kid's movie.
Yes,
Weird.
totally.
Okay.
It is weird. And then
Hmm.
Jamie Lee Curtis was obviously a pretty big star by now as well. She primarily got her start in horror films like the Halloween series, the original Prom Night movie, as well as other classics like My Girl, and obviously, as we talked about earlier, her True Lies movie. And Mark Harmon, the stepdad Ryan, is mostly known for NCIS, having been in a total of 435 episodes of NCIS. I was like, dang,
Wow.
there's that many episodes. I
That's
know it's been on forever, but that's
good
crazy.
for them, honestly.
Yeah, good for them. They just keep coming up with new
Yeah.
crimes to solve. And then Harry Gold, who was the grandpa,
Hmm.
had been in a lot of movies like Patch Adams and guest starred in The Golden Girls. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2010, so wasn't
Oh.
able to obviously be a part
Hmm.
of this recent sequel. Stephen Tobolowsky, who is Elton Bates, the English teacher, he is now known for the comedy hit The Goldbergs, but prior
Mm.
to Freaky Friday, had been in a number of smaller roles, a lot of voice acting, including Disney's animated Hercules series and the Jungle Book Mowgli's story. So a couple
Hmm.
of smaller little Disney Channel things. Chad Michael Murray.
He's like one
Okay.
of those faces that I feel like you see him all the time in like so many
Yes.
different random little roles and like nobody really can place him, but
Yeah, you're like I
yeah.
know you from somewhere.
Hmm.
You've been in
Yeah.
other things I've seen. Yeah, for
Hmm.
sure. He's been his like IMDb list was huge.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And then Chad Michael Murray was obviously in his prime as well, coming off a ton of heartthrob roles like Charlie in Dawson's Creek, Tristan in Gilmore Girls, and Lucas in One Tree Hill. This movie actually came as his first film hit before A Cinderella Story came out in
Oh.
2004, and then House of Wax in 2005. So big, booming time for Chad Michael Murray when this came out. Julie Gonzalo was also not top billed, but she was the mean girl villain in this, and then reframed that role again with Chad Michael Murray the following year in A Cinderella Story as
It's the
like
same
the mean
girl.
girl. It's the same girl. Isn't that so
What?
funny? The mean girl.
Are they
I was
running
like,
out of Mean
oh,
Girls to cast?
they're
Like,
just like this girl again,
yeah,
this girl
bring
again.
her back.
Yes, which A Cinderella Story is one of my favorite early
Hmm.
2000s classic teen comedy romance movies. But now, obviously, Chad Michael Murray was a huge 2000s heartthrob. Do you remember seeing him in any of these things prior to Freaky Friday, or was this your first memory of him?
So I think I remember. I have to be honest. I never watched Dawson's Creek or One Tree Hill.
Oh,
So,
man.
but like everyone knew who he was, and like
Yeah.
I'd seen him in like a ton of things, but like he wasn't someone that I was really following. So I don't know if it's my
Okay.
first memory of him, but I definitely like if you told me to name a Chad Michael Murray acting role, I would think of
Yeah.
this movie first.
Okay. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people
Hmm.
would, I think. And it's so funny because his long hair is like significantly different than any other role he
Hmm.
had played, but it's like very iconic, which is funny. So this movie did not actually solidify my love of Chad Michael Murray because I was not into his long hair at all. And I hadn't even seen Gilmore Girls yet or Dawson's Creek yet. And One Tree Hill didn't come out until a little over 2 months after Freaky Friday. But once I saw him in A Cinderella Story and then I got into Gilmore Girls, I was like in love with him. Like at this time, I was Austin Ames from Cinderella Story is still one of my top favorite movie boyfriends. Although I am more of a Nathan Scott girly for those One Tree Hill fans out there. I live in North Carolina, as the listeners mostly know, and One Tree Hill was filmed in Wilmington, and it's one of my favorite shows of all
Oh, okay,
time.
okay.
So I have big, big love for him and that whole show.
So you're
Um,
saying I should go binge watch?
you should binge watch. You might be like,
Okay.
Olivia, what did you get me into? This is trash, but
Hey, I
it's
love some
worth a
trash
watch.
TV.
Yeah, it's some good like teen trash TV for sure. But the plot of this 2003 adaptation is really teen rocker Anna Coleman clashes with her widowed mother, psychiatrist Tess, especially over Tessa's upcoming marriage to Ryan, and Anna's band audition falling on the same day as the wedding rehearsal. During a tense dinner at a Chinese restaurant, a magical fortune cookie causes them to switch bodies overnight. As Tess navigates high school and Anna juggles adult responsibilities, both gain new insight into each other's lives. They learn that only a true act of selfless love can break the spell. Anna, moved by her younger brother's kind words and Tessa's support for her music, ultimately gives a sincere wedding toast approving of Ryan, triggering the switchback. Spoiler alert for those of y'all who haven't seen the
You've
2003
only
film.
had 22 years to
Yeah,
watch
yeah,
this.
yeah, true. That's true. So Tess and Ryan marry. Anna gets her shot with Jake, and her band performs at the reception, ending the chaos on a high note with Lindsay Lohan's song "Ultimate," which
Mm,
was quite the jam back in the day. So
mhm.
when I was just rewatching this movie, I could not stop thinking about Chad Michael Murray, like Jake's character. Do you think he like worked at the school, or was he just like a
Okay,
senior? I have a lot of questions. I
I'm
could
glad
not
you brought
tell.
this up because, like, in my mind, I think I always just assumed he was a student, just like older than her. But then I watched it back the other day and I was like, what is he doing there? Like,
Yes,
he's
like he has the
just
key to the
shows up with
test
this. Yeah,
file cabinet, and he's just like wandering around the halls during
it's
class. I'm
never
like,
explained.
who
It's
is
it's
this
like
guy?
clearly never explained.
And then it was like okay for him to be in love with Tess, but then he went right back to Anna after seeing her perform. He was like all over the place.
That's weird.
It was weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you think about the way he flip-flopped between the mom and the daughter? Like it'd be like, "Oh yeah, cool. I'm also in love with you after you just like wanted to make out with my mom." Like how
That
bizarre.
that feels like one of those like plot points they just didn't know how to handle, so they just
Yeah.
made it kind of vague and weird and like simple. But
Yeah.
it's an uncomfortable
It
situation to
it
say the
is, and
least.
we'll get into it in
Mm,
Freakier Friday too a little
yeah.
bit, but they continued that like flip flop, and it was funny. It was funny to watch, but now I'm like, what an interesting,
Hmm.
interesting dynamic here.
Who
But
was this man?
yes, who was this man? The development of this movie, so producer Andrew Gunn pitched a remake of Freaky Friday to Disney exec Nina Jacobson, who was initially hesitant due to the 1995 TV version. However, at the success of The Princess Diaries in 2001, interest grew in making this 2003 version of the film. So the screenwriter Heather Hatch, along with Andrew Gunn and Kristen Burr, developed the concept, and director Mark Waters joined after warming up to the idea despite doubts about the early script. The original script actually featured a psychiatrist mom and a journalist daughter, and Waters revised them into a strict mother and rebellious alternative rock teenager for stronger contrast. And Lindsay Lohan's character was first envisioned as goth, but she auditioned as preppy, and so the role was kind of reworked into a grunge-inspired teen, which I was like, "Oh, preppy would have been
Oh,
like a little more following the Mean Girls path that like
sure.
and
Yeah, yeah.
Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, I guess."
Hmm.
Guitarist Amir Dirac trained the cast, although studio musicians ultimately dubbed the music. So it was not
Oh.
her playing
Hmm.
that electric guitar, unfortunately, even though she did learn how supposedly for the movie. But the soundtrack of this movie, as I said earlier, was one of my favorites. So the songs featured were Lindsay Lohan and Ultimate, Simple Plan. Some other bands that were featured were American Hi-Fi, 40 Foot Echo, Chad Michael Murray with his little intro, Bowling for Soup, Diffuser, Ashley Simpson, and Joey Ramone. So there were a lot of, different acts on this soundtrack. Do you remember any of the music from this movie other than like what's played, obviously, like their
I
band?
aside from the Britney song, the Britney cover, just
Yes.
because I was so and still am such a big Britney fan, but I really only think of the main two songs.
Yeah, yeah. I know
Yeah.
the when I listened to the soundtrack back recently, I was like, okay, and then watched the movie, like, oh, I can catch them like they are in the background. And that was back when
Hmm.
they put out these soundtracks and it was really like whatever was playing in the background.
Sure.
And they kind of stopped doing this when CDs died a little bit. Now there's like Spotify playlists instead. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was definitely unique and kind of like alt rock little
Yeah.
soundtrack. And yeah, Bowling for Soup on the soundtrack played the Baby One More Time, like remix, so to speak,
Hmm.
which was fun. But what was your favorite part about this 2003 movie overall?
I think my favorite part of the whole movie is the scene where Tess is on the talk show
Oh
and
yeah.
she just like goes crazy, and she's like crowd surfing, and
Yes.
it's just like full on chaos. And they like say, they make a comment that like she was escorted out of the building, like they didn't
Yeah.
want her there anymore. I think that's my favorite part of the whole movie.
Yeah, that part is so funny. And the guy's like, look,
Mhm.
she signed my butt. And
Yes,
like,
exactly.
yeah, that part is so
Mhm.
funny. I know there's so many. It's so hard to pick. I love the dynamic between the grandpa and Harry. Like,
Yes.
that cracks me up. Like, in the beginning, when he's got the underwear on his head and he's taking it off, he's like, what is
Yes.
this? One of them thongs? And then when he's
Yeah.
like, earthquake, and like running out of the house, I just think like they are so funny. Like, their little
It's
quips back and forth.
it's funny to watch movies that are I don't want to say older, but it is an older movie at this point, but to like watch little things like that where she's cutting the underwear off his head, and like she's
Yeah.
clearly not doing anything that would help get it off his head.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
like just cutting like little pieces of it away that like have nothing to do with it being stuck on him. I think it's
Yeah.
funny to see things like that.
It is so funny to see things like that. So I found this fun little country living article that I read when doing some
Cool.
research about the original Freaky Friday, and I learned some fun facts about the movie, which I wanted to
Oh,
share with y'all. So Chad Michael Murray was actually Lindsay Lohan's first on-screen kiss, which I thought was fun. But I
no
guess that
way.
makes when I like think about what was before this, it was like the Get a Clue movie,
Mm-hmm.
Life Size, which she obviously
Yeah.
wasn't kissing anybody there, and then
Yeah.
Parent Trap. So I was like, okay, like I guess I can see that.
Wow. Yeah.
I guess behind the scenes, Chad and Jamie Lee shared a kiss of their own, and he revealed that Jamie Lee kissed him backstage to rid both him and Lindsay of their pre-smooch nerves. And he said, a quote was, "At this point, I went, dude, I just made out with Jamie Lee Curtis. This is great." And this is apparently in a Busy Phillips interview. I know I was like, oh,
Honestly, that's
interesting.
so on brand for Jamie
For
Lee
Jamie Lee
Curtis.
Curtis, yeah,
Just to do something wacko and no
makes
apology.
sense. Yeah, so funny. And both Lindsay and Jamie Lee had to learn how to play guitar to kind of fake it
Mm.
on screen. And the on-screen mother-daughter duo took guitar lessons from a member of the band Orgy, who was Amir Derak. And Lindsay even reportedly practiced on her own for over a year before taking on the role. In a
Wow.
behind-the-scenes feature, she revealed that she held frequent band practices with the band, Pink Slip, the movie's fictional band. And despite their best efforts, both Jamie and Lindsay's playing was dubbed over in the movie by professional musicians. So in
Yeah.
2022, Jamie Lee joked to Vulture that she slayed her guitar solo. But yeah, it was dubbed over.
Okay, but this is really interesting because Jamie Lee really pulls it off in that scene at the end. And
Yeah.
if she only took this role 4 days before they started shooting, she picked that up really quickly.
Yeah, she did. I know. I
Hmm.
was like, I was convinced, like as a teen, and even now, like I don't think I would have necessarily known. Obviously, I was not a guitar, as we
We were no
enthusiasts. Yeah,
prodigies, but
yeah, I was not a prodigy,
but
but
I
it
think
did
she
look
slayed.
legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
And Mark Waters, the director of Freaky Friday, told Elle that the song Ultimate was actually added to the movie because Lindsay was annoyed that she had learned the guitar for the movie and didn't have any big solo scenes that allowed to show off her new skills, which I thought was so funny. She's like, I am gonna throw a fit, so I want my
Yeah, I'm
music.
annoyed.
Yes, so funny. Mark McClure, who played Annabelle's love interest in the 1976 movie, made a cameo as Boris, like I said
Mhm.
earlier, who's the delivery man that drops by Tessa's office, and his name was Boris in the original film too. And in the original script of this movie, Anna was a student journalist who was trying to get an interview with Gwen Stefani at the House of Blues. But Mark didn't like the idea that Anna and her mom would be too similar, so they cut that out, which I'm like, I don't
Huh.
really know how that would make them too similar,
Yeah.
but okay. And then for a dose of nostalgic Hollywood drama at this time, this was so funny to me. Hilary Duff and Lindsay Lohan were famously squabbling over Aaron Carter, who both actresses dated in the early 2000s. The pair reportedly engaged in a red carpet war in which they crashed each other's 2003 film premieres. Hillary posed at the Freaky Friday premiere, and Lindsay returned the favor at the Cheaper by the Dozen premiere later that year in December, which I was like, oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
So
Were they invited? Like, did they just show
I
up
think
and
they
they're like,
just
you
showed
know who I
up.
am?
Yeah, yeah. And I guess like Hillary Duff was such a big Disney star then that like what are they gonna
Yeah.
do? Kick her out? Like no. But I thought that was so funny. Did you know any of these fun facts or remember
I
any
didn't
of
know
that
any of
drama?
that. And I don't remember any of that drama.
Me
I don't know how
either.
I missed that because I feel like I would have had my finger on the pulse of Disney Channel star drama, but
Yeah.
no.
Would you have been Team Lindsay or Team Hillary back in the day?
Oh, I can't answer that. I loved them both. Like I was a huge Lizzie McGuire fan.
Me
I
too.
I always saw Hillary as just like this innocent, and I guess I mean
Maybe not
if
stirring
she
the
started
pot.
that, yeah, that red carpet war. I don't know. I loved them both, so I can't decide. But I have a lot of people think I'm a redhead, which it's debatable.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say Team Lindsay on this one.
Okay, I'm gonna go Team Hillary. I was obsessed with Lizzie McGuire also, and had like posters of her all over my walls. A Cinderella Story. I did
Okay,
also
fair.
love Lindsay Lohan. Parent Trap is one of my favorite movies still of all time. And then this like her, like you said, Rumors. I like literally started singing that
Hmm.
in my head when you said it. Loved her music too, so it is hard to pick, but I'll go with Hillary just to be a little different.
Okay, okay.
So the reception of this movie, the 2003 version, opened really strong and pulled over 22 million in its first weekend, second only to SWAT, and it earned more than 160 million worldwide, with 110 of that from North America alone. So really not bad for
Wow,
this
yeah.
teen body swap comedy. Critically, it was also a hit too. Rotten Tomatoes actually gave it an 88% score, and Metacritic called it generally favorable. Audiences agreed, and Cinema Score gave it an A minus. So, Stephen, do you agree with this score? And what would you rate the original film on a scale of 1 to 10?
I do agree with this. I'm just thinking back to all of these different celebrities that you mentioned that could have played all these various roles and like what a
Yeah.
different movie it would have been and how I really think it came together as the right people and I don't think it would have been as good with anyone else. So I'm going to say I think I'm going to stick with the 88% for Rotten Tomatoes and I'll give it a B plus on the cinema
Okay.
score. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Mhm.
I know. I love this movie. I'm really bad at rating movies because I'm like, I loved it 10 out of 10, but like really probably like 9 out of 10 for me. There's like some things that like the plot with Jake that I'm like, this was a little weird and like not wrapped up very well.
Yeah.
But for
There
the
are some
most
moments.
part,
Yeah.
yeah, there are some moments, but
Mhm.
I did love it. And Roger Ebert praised the chemistry between Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan, comparing Curtis's performance to Tom Hanks in Big. Others
Hmm.
called it some of her best work ever, and Lohan held her own, showing real depth between the teen attitude. A lot of people said it was genuinely funny and a surprise success, but not all reviews were glowing. There were a few critical issues that took issue with the film's use of Asian stereotypes in the body
Mhm.
swap scene, something that Ebert and others pointed out and dated as problematic. But still, the film's legacy really has only grown. IndieWire named it the best body swap comedy ever, and Teen Vogue even gave a shout out to Lohan's fictional band Pink Slip for inspiring a whole generation of alternative rock loving teens, which is true. Like, I'm very big into alternative rock, and I don't know if it started with Freaky Friday, but it definitely didn't hurt anything. It didn't slow me down, that's for sure. So I thought that was funny. But despite the flaws and stereotypes that really didn't age well, Freaky Friday is still considered one of these best movies. So why do you think this version continues to resonate like 20 years later with people?
I think it's. I was listening to you talk about like the concerns over some of the
Stereotypes.
yeah the stereotyping, and I think back to uh, it was definitely a different time,
Hmm.
and the characters that play Pepe and her mother are in one of the most ahead of its time movies of Asian culture with Joy Luck Club. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yeah. Hmm.
And it's just interesting to see them go from something like that to this. But I think this movie, aside from that, I think this movie resonates because I think there was a love for Lindsay Lohan. And I
Yeah.
think she really was just kind of one of the icons of our generation growing up. And I think as time went on and she kind of fell out of the Hollywood world, I think there was always this route for her to come back, and I think it's just one of those things to look back on and think it was probably a better time for her, and it was a
Yeah.
great time for us, and she really gave us a lot of nostalgia and what with Parent Trap and Freaky Friday and all of the movies in between and Mean Girls. And so I think people gravitate back to her. And I think Jamie Lee Curtis is
Definitely.
just the icon that she is. She was
Yeah.
announced as a Disney legend this past year. So it's two people that I think have a lot of prominence in our childhood.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Were you there? So you were at D23. Did you get to go
Hmm.
to the Legends like when she
Yes. I
That's
was there, and
awesome.
Lindsay announced it for her
Oh,
and
so
welcomed
cool.
her on the stage, which was cool to see.
That is really cool. Moving over into Freakier Friday, back in 2022, Jamie Lee Curtis teased the idea during an event, saying she'd love to revisit the story. And yes, she and Lindsay Lohan still keep in touch. That buzz really picked up quickly, and both actresses confirmed that they'd reached out to Disney with ideas, which was kind of cool that it was sparked from them and not the other way around, like Disney coming up with
Hmm.
this
Right.
for, reaching out to them. So by 2023, Disney gave the green light and a script was in the works. The film was set to bring back Curtis, Lohan, and even Pink Slip, the fictional band from the original movie. Filming was delayed a bit by Hollywood writing strikes, but momentum picked up again once those wrapped. And fast forward to 2024, it's official. Freakier Friday was announced as the title, and it was being directed by Nisha Ganantra. Oh my gosh, I can't say that. With filming starting mid-year in LA. The plot was that Tess and Anna swap bodies again, but this time with Anna's daughter and soon-to-be stepdaughter. So the cast is once again stacked. So Julia Butters joins the new generation, and original stars like Chad Michael Murray, Mark Harmon, Christina Vidal, and more are all back. So when you first heard they were making this Freaky Friday sequel, I know you said initially you were a little skeptical but
Hmm.
excited too. So would you say like very mixed feelings but hopeful for some?
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I describe it. I'm always skeptical with the remakes and the
Yeah.
sequels, because I feel like they're very hit or miss, and
Yes.
I think I didn't have a lot of faith in this being done justice, and for the fact that I don't want to say I didn't have faith in Lindsay, but she hadn't done much lately. And
Hmm.
she's done, I think, two, like a Hallmark movie and a Netflix
Netflix movie.
movie, and I
Yeah.
watched those and they were very safe. And I think my fear was they're going to play this very safe, and I want it
Hmm.
to be a little bit more grungier like her character was, or I want to feel it instead of just feel like I'm watching a very one note performance. But we'll talk about what I
Yes.
think later.
Okay,
Hmm.
so this movie that obviously just came out, a week ago from this recording, week and a half ago by the time this episode airs, and it already has gotten pretty positive reception. So it got a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes, so not bad. And the critics' consensus really says that Freakier Friday doesn't reinvent the original story so much as it swaps the formula around for a frothy good time, with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan easily slipping back into the roles that fit them like mixed and matched gloves. So there were a lot of things that I loved about this, but also some things that kind of missed the mark for me. But I want to hear first, what did you love and not really love about this sequel, Steven?
So I have a lot of thoughts. I think
Okay.
my overall takeaway is that I was completely blown away with what they did with it. I think they took something, modernized it, made a completely original story. So it didn't feel like I was watching kind of just an updated version of the old one. It was a true sequel with a different experience. I think it
Yeah.
was really nice how it felt authentic to the original, but also felt modern in that way as well, because it felt like it was giving something for us as the older generation who's connected to this movie, and giving something for the new generation to latch onto.
Yeah.
And so it's almost a good starting point for a new viewer of the Freaky Friday universe, to then go back and maybe watch the original after this. But I think they did a really really good job with the humor. I think it was like
Yes. It was so
smart
funny.
funny,
Hmm.
and I think it had more heart than I ever could have expected in a movie like this, where there were moments that I was actually tearing up in the theater and thinking like, wow, that was a unique angle, and I really felt the emotion that they were feeling. I think some of the misses for me, I think, came in the Chad Michael Murray character
Yeah.
element. I felt like it was a little overdone. I think a
Yeah.
cameo would have probably sufficed, but I think there was a little and I don't want to do too many spoilers here, but I just
Yeah.
think that was played on a little too hard, and to points where it was just like, do we really need to do that joke? Did we really need to, like, it was cringy at moments? But
Yeah.
overall, I think Lindsay Lohan's performance was leaps and bounds the best she's done in years, and I felt like she was old Lindsay again. And
Yeah.
I felt like Jamie Lee Curtis was just having the time of her life. Like, you could feel that she was having fun in the role. So I think for
Definitely.
me, it really hit the nail on the head when it touched every single nostalgia point. It brought back every single person you wanted to see. There
Hmm.
are cameos in there that I don't want to spoil that are just so fun to see.
Yeah.
And I think it was very well executed. The direction was spot on. And I think I have to say I liked it better than the original.
You did. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, that's a hot take. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely I went in very skeptical because of how much I love the original that I was like, how can it possibly measure up? And I think I've been so disappointed by some of the
Hmm.
remakes lately that I'm
Hmm.
just like, okay, let's hope for the best and hopefully I get to laugh. But I was genuinely surprised, like you said, how much I laughed, how like tearful I got about things. They did a really good job. And when I initially saw the plot and I was like, okay, this British stepdaughter, how
Yes.
is this going to
Hmm.
work? Like,
I didn't
I don't know.
understand it.
Me either. I
Yeah.
was kind of like a little bit like, where are they going here? But it did, really work out. Some things that kind of missed the mark for me. I didn't really love that they used the fortune teller lady to swap them, which isn't a spoiler
Mm-hmm.
because they talk about that in the commercial. I kind of was like, I don't know. I feel like they could have gone a different angle. But I thought that wasn't as good. It didn't stick as much as the fortune cookie theme did with
Hmm.
me in the initial. I also didn't love there's a scene where they're doing like a dance rehearsal for their wedding. Like, I don't know what was that. It like did you like that scene or were you kind
I
of like what happened here?
I have to say I liked when Manny Jacinto was dancing. I thought that was like
Yes.
hysterical and unexpected, but overall it was just tropey.
Yeah.
I
He
think
did
it
a
was just
great job. I was
yeah.
very impressed by
Hmm.
him, but I was just like this was so unnecessary
Yeah,
for the plot. Like I
and
guess just like another
I
thing
think
they
the
threw in
fortune
there.
teller, like, I think it kind of missed the mark. Like, it just
Yeah.
wasn't, like you were saying, it wasn't memorable. But I also see the point. Like, they were trying not to do the same
Yeah.
thing and fall into the same stereotypes as before.
Yes.
So it's like they had to figure out something, but I don't know if that was the right
I agree.
memory maker there. So,
Yeah, definitely. And
mhm,
then I love that they brought back Pink Slip. I thought that was
mhm.
so fun. I laughed so hard when y'all watch it. You'll know what I'm talking about at the pharmacy scene where Jamie
Yes.
Lee Curtis goes into the senior aisle. That was so
Hmm.
funny to me. I did love the Chad Michael Murray cameos. There were a couple of them that I was like, I don't know if this was
Hmm.
necessary. But the ending scene, I won't give away, but I laughed so hard at like
I,
who he brought with
I
him
agree with
to
that.
the wedding.
100% agree with that. Like, that was spot on hysterical laugh out loud.
Yeah, I was
Hmm.
cracking up at that. So yeah,
Hmm.
overall, I enjoyed it. I definitely was surprised how much I enjoyed it. And I came out and Maddie asked, like, how did you like it? And I took actually my 6-year-old with me, my nieces, my cousin, and I took our kids, and they thought it was hilarious. Like they were like thinking the whole thing was so funny. They actually said they liked it better than the original, but it was really funny to them. They're like, who is that old guy with the beard talking about Chad Michael Murray? And I was like, oh no. I was like, that's what you
The
consider the
old
old
guy?
guy?
Oh
I
no.
was like, oh boy, this is really not going to end
Oh,
well
it's
for me.
happening.
But so what would you rate Freakier Friday if you were going to give it a percentage?
Okay. So I gave that 88%. I'm gonna say a 90.
Okay.
It's not a like a ballpark home run difference in my feelings, but it's definitely just edged out a little bit.
Okay. Okay, good.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would say that I would give it probably a 78. It's
Oh,
not
okay,
quite,
okay.
yeah, a
Hmm.
little lower,
Hmm.
but it was good. It was funny. I liked it, but there were still some things that like they kind of didn't fully explain that I was like, okay, wait, how did we get from here to there and why did
Yeah.
we throw this in? But overall, yeah, I definitely laughed. I would watch it again. It was
Hmm.
good.
I'm like a person who relies a lot on my expectation of something, and it can make or break the way I feel something. So a lot of times I like to go into things not reading reviews and not getting other
Yeah.
people's takes on it because it will swing me. And I think coming into this with zero expectations really made it exciting for me, and really
Yeah.
the surprise of it helped put it where I placed it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think if I would have gone in thinking this is going to be the best movie
Hmm.
of the year and
Right.
all these things, like I would have been disappointed. But yeah, and I similarly, I saw it Friday night of opening week. So I was also trying really hard not to like listen to anybody else that had seen it early. Just like a lot of people were posting, like they liked it, they didn't like it. But then I like would click out of their story and not read anything else
Hmm.
because I just
Yeah.
wanted to go into it with fresh eyes. So yeah, it worked out. Glad I saw it. I'm glad I do recommend people to go go and see it, but it's already made like a good amount of money. Like I read today, it like well surpassed its budget already, which is awesome. So I'm happy for them and for the group and for all the effort that they put in putting this together. I thought it was super fun. Now, for you and I, we're both often talking about Disney parks specifically, which is the huge moneymaker for Disney. But Disney's movie production side of the business is a hot topic, especially right now, as so many movies are really struggling to keep up with the financial expense that it takes to make them. And Disney's trying to find this correct formula for releasing movies. Some people want to see all of the sequels and remakes no matter what, and others are pushing for original content. So this year in particular, it was interesting to see how hard they marketed Snow White, which was a
Mhm.
box office bomb, but you and I both really
We
enjoyed.
did, yeah.
And they also really marketed Lilo and Stitch, the live action version, hard, and that did very well financially. However, original movies like Elio barely had any marketing. And I know that I hardly knew that was in the theaters, but I had a similar reaction to Wish a few years ago. Didn't really know that was in the
Hmm.
theaters. And then all of a sudden it came and went. And then we have movies like Freakier Friday, which obviously have this huge nostalgia piece, as do the live action remakes, I guess, because you're kind of tying it into an original or a story, and this is a remake of it. But Disney seems to really bank heavily on nostalgia with projects like Freakier Friday and those live action remakes. So do you think that's a sustainable long-term strategy?
I do. I think Disney banks on nostalgia when it comes to almost everything they do. I
Yeah.
think I think it's worked for them for 100 years,
Hmm.
and it's something they're never going to stop doing. I think the struggle is that they're also known for innovation and telling an original story. So there has to be a balance.
Hmm.
And I think it's sad, like for this summer, for example, there were four Disney or also Marvel films that came out, and I would put Freakier Friday at the top of that. I would say Freakier
Yeah.
Friday, Fantastic Four,
Hmm.
then Lilo and Stitch, then Elio last, which it hurts me to say, but because I want these new stories, and like you can't get a Frozen without a risk. You
Right.
can't you have to take these risks sometimes, and not every risk is gonna pan out. So I think it is safer to do something like this because there's already a bought in audience that's gonna actually pay to see this type of thing. So I think it is a sustainable long term strategy. I don't know if it's what everybody wants to see as the 100% uh, way forward,
Yeah.
but I think they're never going to turn from knowing what their strong suit is, and it's taking people back 20 years and feeling a feeling of the first time they saw Freaky Friday, and it's going to work every time, and it worked on me. So I
Yeah.
do think they're gonna keep doing this. I think there may be a change in the way we see live action
Hmm.
of animated films just based off of the way things went this year with Snow White. But I don't love all of the live action remakes, but I do love some of them, and it is nice to see an original take on these things. So
Yeah.
I don't want to ever say that I'm against these things, but I would like to see some more originals. But I'm happy
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah, me too. I know I'm definitely a fan of both things. And, this nostalgia piece is a huge reason of why, do the podcast, to go to the
Hmm.
park still. Like that all is a huge part of that. So I agree. And what would make you see a movie in theaters and even just from a Disney perspective versus
Hmm.
waiting for it to come to streaming? Do you pretty much see any movie that comes out that's Disney, or are there things that make you wait?
My answer to that is nostalgia. I grew up
Okay.
in the movie theater,
Yeah.
and I want to be there in the movie theater. It reminds me of my childhood. It makes me think of my family. So I have AMC A list. Every weekend I'm at the movie theater. Typically, almost every Friday night, you can find me at AMC in
Oh,
Times Square.
fun.
So
Yeah.
if you're ever looking for me on a Friday, but yeah, I like to see movies as soon as they come out. That also so that I don't get anything spoiled. I want to see it early. So I'm always the type to be in the theater. I don't want to wait for anything. I want to see it fresh.
Okay, yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, I feel like for me, it just highly depends on our schedule and how busy we
Mm-hmm.
are. But And if it's kid friendly or if it's something we have to pay
True.
for a babysitter for. But I
Hmm.
do love to see the experience of being in the movie theater. Like that was a really hard thing during COVID when we weren't really able to be in the movie
Hmm.
theater and go see movies. And that was so disappointing. And I remember going back to the movies. One of the first movies I think we saw back in the theater was James Bond, one of the
Mm.
James Bond movies. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just such a better experience than
Yeah.
at home. And we're big movie watchers. We love to watch movies at home. We rewatch movies. But yeah, I definitely think that the movie experience is important and definitely a nostalgic piece too. Like you said, growing up and going to the movie theater was a big thing in our family also.
I also have ADD, so if I'm sitting at home, I'm like scrolling on my phone, like half watching like the
Yeah.
movie. When I'm in the theater, I put my phone on do not disturb and I'm locked in. Like I'm like I'm
Yeah.
gonna be here. I'm seeing this in the way they wanted me to see it. So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that. Being
Hmm.
locked in is helpful. Okay, so if you could body swap with anyone for a day, who would it be and why?
Oh,
This is a
okay.
hard question.
Well, I feel like I could go so many directions with this, but one of the first that comes to mind is Bruce Vaughan, the president of Imagineering,
Oh, I like
because
that.
I would love the ability to greenlight some projects and to throw
Yeah.
out some ideas in that body that was a credible source and have all these things move forward in the parks and Disney experiences. So I think that would be my body swap for the day.
Okay, cool. My answer is
Hmm.
also Disney Parks related, just for this podcast, but I would body swap with the person who gets to be Mickey and Phantasmic at the end.
Ooh,
I think that would
yeah.
be so fun. I'm obsessed
That's
with Phantasmic, as y'all know. So, yeah, I would love to be able to like experience that, be a whole part of that show, and get to be the person that brings people to tears like every night in Hollywood
that
Studios.
is a
So, I
good
would do
choice.
that. Yeah. So if you were recasting Freaky Friday with Gen Z or Gen Alpha stars, or even, I mean, just whoever, who would
Hmm.
you cast as your leads?
Oh, who would I cast? I don't even know any Gen Z stars. Who's out there?
I feel like everyone just says
Uh,
like the general, like Timothy Chalamet, right?
right.
That's like who I can think of first.
I'm gonna say, okay, for the mom, I would do Britney Spears.
Oh, yeah.
I think she would be funny, and I'm gonna give it a southern take. It's gonna take place in the South this time because she's
Oh,
from Louisiana, and the child, maybe Sabrina Carpenter.
that's
She's
what I
Gen
was
Z,
literally
right?
just
Yeah,
thinking.
I could
Yeah.
see her being like funny with it.
Yeah, I could
Hmm.
see her funny. I'm like thinking of her and Dolly Parton in her Please, Please, Please
Oh
video being
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Southern. Like,
yeah.
that's so
Hmm.
funny. Okay,
Hmm.
good. I like that answer. So, in this year of podcasting, we are doing a Would You Rather question with each episode. If you haven't seen, last week we posted our 1 year podcast anniversary episode and we're doing a
Ooh.
giveaway. So, you have until Thursday, August 28th at 11:59 p.m. to comment your Would You Rather either on the comments in Spotify, on YouTube, or on Instagram in order to be entered. That one is a requirement. And then there are also some bonus opportunities like subscribing and writing a review on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, sending me a screenshot of that, and then following us on Instagram, and just send me a little message saying following or hello, something like that for the giveaway, and sharing our giveaway reel and tagging us there on Instagram. So there's 4 opportunities to be entered, and there are the 3 different prizes. So a $25 gift card, a Disney pin and lanyard from the 70th, and a show sticker with a ride sticker. And then the second place winner will get a pin and lanyard, a show sticker, and a ride sticker. And third place will get a ride sticker and a show sticker. So definitely stick around and win some Disney money for paying for a lightning lane or something. I don't know. Use it for something fun when you go to the parks. But today's Would You Rather came from our friend Stephanie, who is at Pixie Dust Run Steph. And her question was, would you rather have only Dole Whip all day with no water or only turkey legs all day with no water? Which would you rather have?
Stephanie, wow.
Yeah.
The salt intake from turkey legs all day. I can't imagine that is safe for anyone with no water
Yeah. In hot Florida sun.
in hot Florida sun.
I'm
I'm
gonna say
gonna
Dole Whip.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think Dole Whip is gonna it's cool, it's refreshing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the only way to go here.
I am also not a turkey leg girl, so I'm not about it. I just yeah, it's not my thing. So I don't even know that I could eat one, let alone like all day. So
I
I'm definitely gonna
cannot
say Dole
imagine
Whip.
finishing a turkey leg. One bite just to say I did it, and I'm like, okay, that was
Yeah. Yeah.
we went there.
So funny.
Oh,
Well, thanks so much for joining me, Stephen. This was such a fun discussion talking about Freakier Friday, and I knew you were the right person for the job. So tell our listeners one more time where they can find you and your show again.
yeah, of course. I don't know who I am anymore. So if we wake up tomorrow and I'm you and you're me, we'll
We'll
just say
swap.
that this podcast swapped us. But yeah, you can find us on Instagram. That's kind of our main spot. It's at Idiots Imagineering. And you can find our show Idiots Imagineering on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts really. And we've got something new coming out every single Monday. We've got a lot of things we're very excited about for the rest of the year that aren't our normal season show. But then season 4 is around the corner, so stay tuned for that.
Yes. Well, thanks again for taking time out of your technically off season, even though I know it's never off season for you, and coming on the show. But that is it, listeners, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at Soarin Around WDW Pod, where we share fun reels, throwback photos, and dive into our old versus new debates. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. And for our Spotify listeners, a follow and a 5-star review would mean the world. If you're listening on Apple, hit that 5-star button and leave us a written review as well. Thanks again for joining us. See you next time.